Jai Shri Mataji. Hello,
Jai Shri
Felicity. Hello, Shankar ji. It's a lovely morning here in England today on the 14th of February 2025. Really glorious sunshine. Let's start today's session. It's a little bit different from how we are doing our sessions in terms of who is going to interview and who is to be interviewed. So we'll start the session first with um, an excerpt of Shri Mataji in India. It's a New Year's puja, and we meditate with our attention on Sahasrara. Okay?
Still no sound. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yesterday's experience was that the whole day I had to spend it with police people explaining to them. And now I feel that in Maharashtra, there's a rule of mafia, and that it is for us to face it, and we have to prove it. I'm sorry some people were hurt so badly. And I think after puja, they'll take you to the hospital here. There's a very nice hospital where we have very good doctors. And then I would request you to know that the evil and the good always has to struggle and fight. Formerly, in this great country of Maharashtra, all the saints were tortured to such an extent that it is amazing how, despite all that, they kept the banner of spirituality so high. They are still existing, the same people who have tortured the saints. And I think they are the same people who have behaved in such a bad manner towards you. This kind of ego trip builds up in everyone, even in amongst Hindus, it does build up. And they are all the time on the defensive. This is like Hitler style of behavior, that you pick up some sort of an issue. An issue could be anything, like they're saying that we are trying to remove all the blind faiths. I mean, I've done this for 18 years. What can they do more than that? And I have removed all your blind faiths in all kinds of stupid things that the religion so-called was teaching you in every religion. There's no question of only Hindu religion. But here they dare not say anything about the Muslims because the Hindus are very mild people. They want that all the temples must be removed. All the deities must be thrown away. This is all I think Rajneesh is their guru because he made a exhibition where he tried to show that Ganpati was something very funny and all that. Now, medically, you know in Sahaja Yoga that without Ganesha, we cannot cure many diseases. It's a fact. So, a stupid fellow talking like that has become now the guru of these people who are discarded all over the world and has been insulted. So, these few newspapers have made him as a guru, perhaps that they are following his methods of saying that we should be rid of all these ideas and this and that. But they have gone to the extent that all the spirituality is an illusion. Such a joke. And that we should give up all readings and all understanding about spirituality, but they do not know that their heritage is spirituality. And the whole world depends on that. The whole world, because when the people do industrial development, you know how far they have gone and how much they have lost, and how far you were in that mess, and how you came back because of Sahaja Yoga spirituality. Now, if this nourishment from the roots of spirituality does not reach the West, the real knowledge as it is in Sahaja Yoga, the West will be finished. West will be finished. You know that very well. There's no joy, there's no love, there's no poetry, there's no music, there's no culture. But as you have understood that now these people have now started talking about no religion, like many of your Western countries have also done, especially Russia has done that there's nothing like God, there's nothing like this and that. And now after all that, now they're coming to God. So now we'll have to go through another circle. But there are only hardly 20 people. So even one fellow who is like Hitler can destroy the whole thing. This is a very important thing. To destroy something, you need only one person. But to sustain and to construct, you need many people. To drown a ship, you need only one hole in it. But to build the ship, you take months together. So the work that is done for these last 18 years of Sahaja Yoga is really tremendous. And the truth about it, you know for definite, that it has helped so many people. Though we have been going from ups and downs and all that, we've been doing wrong things, no doubt about it. But still, now we are quite established and we know what Sahaja Yoga is. The experience of Sahaja Yoga you all have had. You have seen so many. What is she doing? Please be seated. Miraculous photographs you have seen, so many miracles in your life, day to day, every day there are miracles. Now to say there is no God is impossible for you because we have felt the miracles of this all-pervading power, the Param Chaitanya. And also all the religions are explained and the complete integration of them has been brought. But for that, we have to know, as I told you in Brahmapuri, that the Sahajogis have to know that they have to become dynamic. Whatever energies you have got, whatever you have achieved within yourself is not sufficient enough. You have to manifest. And in that dynamism, I think people get lost. I've seen that some leaders become horrid. I mean, sometimes the Vishuddhis could be horrible, then their heart goes out. So we should not allow anybody a leader for more than 1 month. It goes off. I've seen it. Because your balloon has been already bloated, and again it gets re-bloated in no time. Atmadhyam basa kumbh. Tumi Atmadhyam kumbh Atmadhyam basa. They have religiously kept all the Indians outside, I think. Yeah, Atmadhyam basa. When he is the organizer here. Basa. So the heritage of our country is spirituality. And this is the nourishment. Only the one-sided growth in the West, due to machinery or whatever you will call it, has ruined it completely. And one-sided growth in this country and all such countries where religion has become a blind faith has also ruined it. But in the center lies Sahaja. Now your wisdom, your sense is so apparent. I mean, people have been to all kinds of gurus here and have been to everywhere, but they don't know anything about anything except for remembering by heart some of these Harinamas, talk about Rama like that. While you know everything about kundalini, you know how to raise it, you know how to realization, you know what are the diseases are caused, how to cure it, and everything and everything and everything. I mean, it has come to such a stage that nobody asks me any questions. Otherwise, in the beginning in London, my lecture was for 5 minutes, and the questions were for the rest of the time. So now you know so much. And you accept, which cannot be explained also because you know that. For example, somebody will ask me, Mother, how do you get these photographs? Why am I talking about it? I know how it happens, who is doing this trick. I don't want to tell you. Moreover, if you demand something, I'll never tell you. That's one of the characters I have. If you come with humble thing and honest desire to know, then I can tell you about everything that you want. But if you just want to force me and say that I challenge you, I said, I also challenge you, get out of here. Like that. You see, it doesn't react that way. So it is just a temperament of the divine that if you are convex, the divine becomes convex also and fights and says, no, get out. If you become concave, then it emits and gives knowledge or receives knowledge. So one has to be humble. That's very important part of it. One has to be humble. So the awareness, again I talk about awareness, within you should be that how much we have come to know about ourselves, how much we have to come to know about others, how much we know about our own being, how much we know about chakras. In such a short time, how did we come to know about it? Like we should know if you are dealing with a computer and you know how computer works, how it acts, how it is programmed, everything, without programming it, without working it out, without building it up. I mean, if you build it up, you know how it works. But without doing that, just to know a computer, how it works and all the machinery about it, this is tremendous knowledge. And this is what has to be there for all of us to know what we are as human beings and what we have to do to emancipate the other human beings. Of course, I shouldn't say that every Sir Yogi is of that level, no, or comes up. But everybody is trying. Nobody has denied Sir Yoga. Nobody has said it's not true. Everybody is trying to get higher and higher in state of spirituality, which doesn't speak. It acts. It doesn't manipulate, it acts. We've seen it acts in so many miraculous ways. So first to know about all these things after feeling that Parama Chaitanya is different from just to talk about it. Many have talked about it, but you have never felt it. Now you have felt it, you have verified it, you have experimented it, and you have
That was quite long.
Yeah.
Shri Mataji, yes. Couldn't stop it anyway. I tried a few times, but it happened when it was meant to by Shri Mataji. So in today's session, which is very different from what we've had so far, we have Felicity in Devon. Hi, Felicity, joining us. And we have Shankarji here sitting beside me. The interview is going to be taken by Felicity.
Not really.
A lot of things in common here. So I'd request Felicity to take over, please.
So well, so I'm yes, Jai Shri Mataji. So nice to be with you both, and I'm looking forward to hearing. You were sharing a little bit, Shankarji, about how you first got your realization, and from this area where I am in Nosmayo in Devon on the river near Plymouth in the south part of England next to Cornwall, and a very ancient part of the land. And so I'm looking forward to hearing you share your stories. And I know also that we're going to hear something about Sri Ganesha as well. So if you would like to start the story of your seeking, how you came into Saj Yoga.
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everybody. It's very kind of you to allow me to tell my story. I have just jumped in on a vacant slot in the interview. Our big brother in Australia, Alex Henshaw, couldn't make it this morning, so I've been kindly invited to jump in, and I hope you enjoy what I've got to say, and I hope some of you out there can relate to what I'm going to say. It's very hard to explain how the divine works, and all I can say is that one has to just marvel at the mysticism and the miracles and the magic of the divine, which I understand essentially comes from Sri Ganesha. But you'll discover that for yourselves as you meditate more and lead out your lives as realized souls. Well, basically, it's quite amazing that Felicity's in Nosmayo. It's a small coastal village. It's opposite another village across the creek, Newton Ferrers, and it was in Newton Ferrers when I was sitting in front of the TV. I was staying at a mate's house because I wasn't faring very well as a young man, following the premature death of my parents in the space of 2 years of each other. My mum passed on in 1983, and my dad followed her in 1986. And I was a young man.
How old? How old?
I was I was 21 and 21 when my mum went, and 23 when my dad went. I don't have any brothers and sisters. I did have a brother. But he died at 18 months, and I don't know, I think I must have been about 9 at the time. But basically, when my mum and dad passed away, my world just fell apart. I bottled it up for a while. You can try and keep a brave face on it, stiff upper lip and all that in typically English fashion. But in the end, I succumbed to about 4 years of manic depression, which totally threw me out because the GP that I visited in Plymouth at the time diagnosed my condition. He said, Paul, he said, you've been suffering manic depression. I just couldn't believe that what was going on with me. And I was feeling very lost in the world. Luckily, I had some extremely good Plymouth Poly friends then that was very supportive, but I couldn't relate to life anymore. I couldn't relate to mainstream life. I couldn't get any satisfaction materially, despite the fact that I'd inherited some tens of thousands of pounds from my late parents' estate. That didn't give me any sense of satisfaction or well-being whatsoever. I was living out at Lodsall, as the locals call it. Well, it's actually the non-locals call it Loddiswell. It's not far from Nos Mayo, just up from Kingsbridge in that South Hams, lovely part, South Devon, where you are, Felicity. And I had a panic attack in Kingsbridge post office. I just fell apart badly. I went in there to buy some stamps, but God forbid anybody experiences manic depression, but it's very black, very dark, and you just can't get out of the hole that you're in. And I was really very lonely, as a young man, not doing well at all. And luckily, the French gentleman that was sharing a house with me in Lodsall rescued me in his old Mark II Ford Cortina and pulled me out of the post office. And I was a gibbering wreck under the dashboard on the way back to Lodsall. Then I went to stay with a good friend in Newton Ferrers across the water, across the creek. And I started to kind of try and stabilise a bit. I got a fish supervisor's job in Tesco's Lee Mill, just on the south edge fringe of Dartmoor there. But all the white tiles around the fish counter was sort of thinking, oh, I think I'm in a loony bin or something. So I jacked that job in pretty quickly. And it was then in that period of staying at Newton Ferrers, I was watching TV through the day. I don't usually watch TV through the day, but for some reason I had a bit of time on my hands. And there was a documentary on the Cabella, and it was a coverage of where the Yamuna River and the Ganga and the mythical Sarasvati come together. The confluence, and then there's this big Kumbh. I think it was one of the big ones that happens every 12 years. And there was lots of sadhus and sannyasis and Hindu pilgrims going to the Kumbh. I think it's just on now currently.
It is on now, actually, and it is a Mahakumbh after 144 years.
Is it? Okay,
yeah, so
yeah.
It's a very big one, and there's a Saj Yoga realization tool there is, and
oh wow,
yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And I was watching this on my mate's TV, and they had some sadhu Shivite bubbas, and they'd got all the ash on their faces, and the red kumkum, big tillaks, and matted hair, and loincloth, and orange garb, and rudrash beads, necklaces. And I was watching it on TV, I was thinking, and some of them had got their hands up like they'd perform tapas or penance to please God Almighty, Sri Shiva to the Hindus, and the fingernails are really long and they couldn't bring their arm down because it had locked in position for 15 years. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, real hard.
Bit extreme.
Yeah, very much so. But I suppose on the Christian level, one would compare it to monks and their retreats or hermitages, I suppose. But I was just totally taken with this, and I thought I was going to go to South America because I was looking for the answer to life, the meaning of life, and I was going to go to South America traveling, but I saw this documentary. I thought, no, I've got to go there. I've got to go to India. I've got to go and check out what these sadhus are doing. This is it. I'm going for this. So I brought myself a mountain bike. It was when mountain bikes had sort of just come onto the scene, and I was going to cycle from Delhi to Sydney to Australia. Obviously, I'd get the ferry over the water, but
So how old were you? So how old were you then?
So what it was, I graduated from Plymouth Poly in 1986, where I did a geography degree, and I went off to India in 1990. So 4 years later, after graduating, and that 4 years of darkness, I was raring to go. I wanted to know what the meaning of life was. I couldn't figure it out. My world had fallen apart from my good friends and my dear aunt and uncle from Bedfordshire that really looked after me.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah.
And I was on the plane to Delhi with my mountain bike, going to cycle from Delhi to Australia. I was going to go round India, and I was going to find what I'd done. I'd nipped into Waterstones in Plymouth looking for books on spirituality. And I found a book about the kundalini. I thought, that's what I need to do. I need to get my kundalini raised. And the only place I can do that is India. Having seen this documentary, I'm off. I jumped on the plane and I landed in Delhi and got on my mountain bike out of Delhi airport. And within cycling about a mile within the city, or on the edge of the city where the airport was, I ended up in this false guru's ashram. So I was like, within hours of getting off the plane, I was ardently seeking through that depression and onto India. But I'd found myself in a false guru's ashram. Now I didn't know that at the time. So, being innocent to it all, I got a little bit sucked in for a couple of weeks. And then I kind of, something in me was pushing me on. So I cycled out of Delhi. I cycled towards Jaipur on my mountain bike on the busy roads, and I ended up living with a Brahmin family, the Sharma family, in a Krishna temple, Sri Krishna temple in Jaipur. No, it was a Sri Krishna temple, this one, in Jaipur, just around from the Palace of the Winds. And I ended up living with them for 6 months, and I pretty much became a member of the family. And I used to go to the Shiva temple, Mandir, the local one, with the head of the household, Mr. Sharmaji. And we used to go and attend the Puja Duarti to Sri Shiva. And I was so taken with this name, Shankar, which is one of his names, that I thought, yeah, that's a great name. It had a real ring. It really resonated with me. I didn't have any middle names then because my mum and dad had really long middle names and they didn't really like them. So they thought they weren't going to impose that.
What is the meaning of Shankar?
Well, I think it if you mispronounce it, it means the one who it means to doubt.
Shankar is doubt.
Shankar is doubt, but
Shankar is doubt.
Okay.
But Shankar is the name of one of the names of Sri Shiva.
Yes.
I think it means the one that has compassion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful name.
So I brought myself a conch. I was blowing that in this Sri Krishna temple, although this was Sri Krishna temple.
So sweet.
And I was coming away in the auto rickshaw with Mr. Sharma, and I thought, Shankar, that's a great. I love the sound of that name. I'd like to have that as a middle name. So what I later did when I returned to the UK, I actually put it and changed my name formally. I think it's Depol, and I put it into my British passport, Paul Shankar Sharma Westbrook. And it wasn't till after realization and listening to Shri Mataji's talks much later on that I understood that Shri Mataji had commented that anyone with the name Paul, Pauline, Paula,
Yes, yes,
about changing it
yes,
that she gave, and I thought, oh wow, that's amazing. So it's okay then, this Paul Shankar Sharma thing. So,
yeah.
which is why people in who practice Sahaja Yoga in the UK, and some of them I know internationally, they know me as Shankar, but otherwise to others I'm known as Paul. But so I got that, and the Sharma bit was in respect to this lovely Hindu family that took me on board, and it was Paul Shankar Sharma, and then but I went into quite a few Baba's ashrams in Rajasthan to try and get my kundalini raised. I won't dwell on it too much because it vibrationally it's not great. But in short, I ended up in one at the near Sariska Tiger Reserve, near between Alwar and Jaipur, and near the village of Tanagaji. And I went and stayed at that ashram. I lived in a little stone hut with a little slate roof.
You're such a seeker, such
I
a
bought
seeker.
myself, all the orange garb,
Yeah.
ram shawl, and the kurta pajamas, and I got the big tilak. I've had a big Sri Ram tilak on my forehead, and all that, and the Rudrash beads and all that, and I was going to get an Om tattooed onto my arm, but I didn't, because I wasn't sure. I didn't want it to get septic, because it would be the local women from the traveling blacksmith
Okay. Wow.
tribe that would have done it, and I thought, no, I don't
Yeah.
septic. But I was all there. And I was one morning at that ashram. We were drawing up water from the well and bucket and chuck it outside, and there were parakeets and leopards, and one morning I remember sitting outside the boundary of the ashram, and this was part of the magic of India, that there were one of the Maharajas of Alwar, I don't know, 150 years ago, had came to visit the Baba on his elephant. And the Baba invited him into the ashram, but the Maharaja refused to dismount from his elephant, because the elephant couldn't get through the gates of the ashram. So the Baba teleported the Maharaja and the elephant with him on it into the ashram. There's a little marble plaque outside the gate, the pedestrian gate of the ashram, and it tells the story in Hindi script, and that was translated to me. So that whole magic of India, and Babas, and sadhus, and smoking chillums, and chanting Om, and blowing
I mean,
conch.
you really got the whole sort of
The whole
ascetic,
package, yeah.
spiritual experience of India
I was
in
looking
all
at
its levels.
cows in the field for the Baba. He had a slingshot, and he was scaring wild birds away from his wheat crop with a slingshot. And then he had me posted in one of the fields to keep
like a living scarecrow.
it was like that. I was emaciated because I was suffering from giardia at the time, which is
Okay.
a protozoan parasite, and I
Yeah.
did not have weight. But anyway, I remember one desperate morning there, though, outside the ashram, where I was squatting down, just looking out at the valley, some low-lying hills there in Rajasthan. It's quite barren, Rajasthan. And I thought, that's it. I said to myself, I said, Paul, you're going to just step out into India and just disappear. I was just about to do it. I was going to renounce everything, the money I'd inherited from my parents, my aunt and uncle, my mates from Plymouth Poly, my mountain bike. I was just going to step out into India and just find God. And something said inside me, it said, don't do it. So I didn't. I turned around and went back into the ashram, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Been dead if I'd have gone out into India.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I came back into ashram. Anyway, and the Baba, when my friend, Mr. Sharma's son, Arun, came up to pick me up from my stay there, because Arun could speak English, but the Baba couldn't speak any English at all. And the Baba, we were all sitting in front of the Baba, and he said, "Why is this guy here? Why is this foreigner here?" You know, I'd been there a couple of weeks, and but now the Baba had the opportunity to he had a translator. So he asked Arun in Hindi what I was doing there. And I said, "Well, I've come to get my kundalini raised. I want to raise my kundalini." He said, the Baba said, "I can't do it." He couldn't do it, but he showed me an asana, and I tried it, and it didn't work. So I then moved on. But part of the manic depression was actually my left side became quite numb.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
wasn't
freezes. It freezes.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what it was, I'd gone so much into the left that the left side, the emotional left side, the lunar channel had frozen over. That's exactly it, what happened to me. And because the right side, the liverish frenetic seeking, it was kept pushing the left down. And this probably it doesn't make any sense at all to anyone that's not a realized soul or yogi listening, but hopefully one day
Yeah.
they'll get it and they'll see. And maybe someone that had the same experience
It's amazing
got
how
it.
much your experience mirrored mine, because I went off to India.
Yes,
I went off to it. I was going to Australia, but
you
got
did,
stuck
yes.
in India for
That's
6
it.
months, traveling around,
Over
looking for a
and
guru in the mountains, wanting to find God, ended up in a wildlife sanctuary
Ah,
and got this deep desire. That's it. I want to feel this joy with God. And then I'm interested to hear when you're getting to Shri Mataji, because it was after that I then got the realization. So, and I was the same. I had this frozen left side. Yeah. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. Continue, please continue.
I do remember bits of your story of traveling to India, and
Yeah.
your interview I was over listening, and I was very delighted to hear of your experience. And I think then, although you were some years before me in getting your self-realization, and I was kind of in the mid to late 80s, and I actually got my realization in 1992. Then we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have laptops and computers, didn't have any of that, and life was like really on the edge and really quite hardcore on the edge, and relatively simple in a way to try and navigate through. Now today, of course, we've got
Yeah.
IT, but so what it was, after not getting my realization in India, I ended up in a couple of other Baba's ashrams around Jaipur as well, which I won't go into.
And the
But
Jardia.
oh, and the Jardia, I had 4 months of that, and it forced me back to England. So I got onto the plane.
Sorry, just remind me again. The Jardia is
A gut protozoan parasite. It's an intestinal.
Oh, right. So you were physically having problems.
I
yes.
was really sick. Yeah. I mean, yeah. The trouble is with Jardia is it you can feel okay for a couple of days, then it reads.
So I had the same thing. I went back to England, and you feel fine, and then suddenly you're sick again, and then so it's very hard to diagnose because you don't realize there's something really wrong. Yeah.
And when you're sick in India, India is not a good place to be in when you're ill.
No.
They've got fantastic doctors and hospital facilities, but you just don't want to get sick in India.
Well, not if you're not in your own home, like Indian people. You have your own home and people to look after you. Yeah. All right. So you're back in England.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because, again, for people that have just got their self-realization or haven't got their self-realization yet, that do happen to watch these Golden Remedies interviews, the void, the guts where the Jardia affects, is that void area, the Bhava Sagar, is part of the seeking of the and it's quite interesting how you can it's linked up. So anyway, I got back to England with my mountain bike. I got back in the late winter. It was blooming cold, freezing, and I didn't have any winter clothes. And I cycled from Heathrow Airport another Plymouth Poly's flat in Northolt, RAF Northolt, yeah, West London. Had bitterly cold, and I was on my mountain bike, and I was not well. And I got to outside his flat, outside the flat. I was dying to use the loo. It was really bad. And he wasn't in. So I doubled up for about an hour on the communal corridor of the block of flats, and eventually his girlfriend came back and let me in, and I was back in England. Central heating, double glazing, carpet on the floors, baked beans, fish and chips, and I felt home. I was home in that sense, and the creature comforts of Western living came flooding back, and I went to go and stay with my granddad in Boreham Wood, Hertfordshire, because I'm originally from Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire, and my granddad saw me with my mountain bike on his front doorstep. I got the train up to Boreham Wood from London, and he was so shocked at the state of me, took me straight down to his GP's and got me checked out, diagnosed Giardia. GP gave me a 2-week course of amoxicillin, antibiotics. I was cured. But what's
Yes.
ironic, I had amoxicillin in my saddlebag in India, and I never took it. And I should have done, but I didn't. But it was all meant to be. I was back.
Bring you back. Yeah.
And while I was there in Jaipur for 6 months, I never got to Australia. I never got as far.
Me neither.
Um, um, what I'd done, other than seeking, I bought some Indian handicrafts. I bought about 6 grand's worth of Indian handicrafts, and Jaipur's the place to buy Indian.
Yeah, beautiful craftsmanship.
Quite an investment, because 6,000
Yeah,
pounds
it
in
was
those
quite a
It's
times.
true. It's true. It's like double. Yeah.
I had a bit, and what it transpired into was 26 cardboard boxes with Hessian sacking sewn around them, sent back on a flight back cargo to my poor old granddad's council house in Boreham Wood. And he opens the door the next day, and there's this van with 26 boxes that I'm manhandling up his stairs and keeping in his spare room, hoping his bedroom floor doesn't collapse because I've overloaded it. And that was what I bought. And then what I did then, and my granddad was so patient with me. He's a real working class man. He was retired. My mum and dad had died. His daughter, my mum, had died. And it was just, apart
It
from
was only your mum and Uncle Len.
yeah, my
and
good
Auntie
Uncle Len and
Anne.
Auntie Anne in Bedfordshire, Bedford. That was my family, really, as such. And my granddad, he really put up with some nonsense from me, and he
Well, that's what grandparents do. They love their grandkids. Unconditional love.
Yeah.
He once he'd got me back on my feet physically, and I went back to Plymouth. I went back. I didn't go and stay at Newton Ferrers. I went to Plymouth initially, back to some old Plymouth Poly mates, and one of the people that I was staying with at Plymouth, in Greenbank, or Lipsome area of Plymouth, she had a ethnic incense boutique on the Barbican in Plymouth. I think it's sold in the house that Jack built.
Okay. I know where you mean.
Customs house on the ground floor. Yeah, she had a new age. It was the new age.
Yes.
A new age secret, all crystals and chanting Om around the rainbow and all this stuff. And she was going to do the festivals around the UK, the folk festivals, the new age festivals, and as a trader, and sell her handicrafts that she'd got from around the world. And I'd got 26 boxes of Indian. I said, I'll come in with you, and I'll get a van. So I brought myself an old British Gas Leyland DAF long wheelbase transit van diesel with the orange lights on the roof that still worked, and loaded up all our stuff, and we hit the festivals for the summer season. This would be the summer of 1990, I think. Yeah, 1990. And we did them all: Strawberry Fair, Cambridge. WOMAD festivals, and ultimately Glastonbury. And I was trading out of the van up the Greenfield. It must have been the summer of 1990, yeah. And at the end of the festival, which of course is a complete binge of drugs and drink and music, and I mean, in 1990 they still had a travellers field where the new age travellers with their converted buses and their horse boxes and their vans, the convoys camped up for Glastonbury. And I didn't travel any, I wasn't part of that scene, although I was seeking. Um, and at the end of when I was packing up, I noticed in the corner of the greenfield where I was trading with this lady, and we had a Rajasthani wedding marquee. And
Oh, how
that was our pitch.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a beaut. And I noticed as we were packing up there was a old Bedford TK horse box on the corner of the field, and it was for sale. So I walked over, I introduced myself to the traveller who owned it. I said, "Oh, it's for sale." He goes, "Yeah, £1,000." And I was a bit gullible. I said, "I'll buy it," because I thought, this is it. I'm going to live in that.
oh.
I hadn't got my realization. I was still seeking. I was still disillusioned with, although I'd placated by the fish and chips and the central heating of my granddad's council house, I still wasn't happy.
Yeah, there's something missing
Yeah,
inside.
I wanted to get out into the nature. I wanted to become one with the nature. I mean, looking back on it, I mentally, I think I wasn't mad, but there might have been elements. There might have been elements of crazy.
No, I think it's more that you're seeking so deeply,
Yeah.
and you trying everything you'll try anything that might get you to that place, and you don't know. That's the thing. You're just traveling around, and you just know you want this thing that you want this connection with the divine, and you can't take it out of yourself. It's sitting there, and it gnaws at you. It's like a hunger that gnaws at you. And so you're kind of there's no there's no set route that you can go on. So you're just like swimming around in all this Maya, to hoping that eventually somehow you'll get there and it will happen.
Yeah,
and I mean, I completely relate to what you're saying. And the beauty of it is that in the same way with Buddha, Buddha also had this really circuitous route before he finally sat down under the tree and kind of like just gave up. I don't, and then boom, got the kundalini comes up, and it's like you have to, well, you don't necessarily have to, but it's certainly in those days, this effort that we put into. But I think also that in some part of the journey, on a subtle level, we're also growing and changing and maturing. So you get to that point where you're finally ready for it, so that when it happens to you, it just goes bing. Now, this is it. You can recognize it. So please continue. You buy the horse box.
And also, just to follow up on that, I was brought up in a Methodist family, middle-class Methodist family, working class roots, and then my mum and dad aspired to being middle class, and I still live with this middle class conditioning around me, which I'm desperately trying to shake off. I was brought up in a Methodist family. I left the Methodist church when I was 18, when I went to Plymouth Poly and discovered drink and drugs and girlfriends and all that. I shouldn't say that with my good Indian wife sitting next to me.
It's a past life. It was a past life.
Moving on. And but I always had a sense of a higher being, I had a sense that the universe was looking after me.
Yeah, me too.
I was going to be all right.
It's so interesting that, because for me also, I had severe depression from family things that had happened. And then, which I mentioned before, led into anorexia without my even realizing it. And yet through it all, I always felt this little tunnel of light, this sense of hope that at some point this would all be done with, you would get what you needed. And it's so beautiful how, and as you said, I felt like I was a strong believer of destiny, of
Yeah.
and at one point I was in Australia and I literally prayed, if I should stay here, I've been there 6 months, you know, this was before I did all my journey to India. And I said, if I should stay here, make this happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'll go home. And then it didn't happen. So I went home, you know, because I had that trust that there is something higher, there is something more that's taking care of us. And in the same way with you, despite all the awful stuff and that horrible depression and you know, grief that you experienced, your spirit inside is just saying, hold on, hold on, hold on, we'll get there, we'll get there.
It's amazing how, and the soul, which is your character,
Yes,
through countless rebirths, it persists in seeking to become
yes,
the spirit, which is a reflection of the divine in your heart. And yeah, you're right. Yeah, and the divine hand
yes,
it turns you.
yes,
You got to go.
yes. And in the same way, when you were in that field and you
Yeah.
say, okay, I'm chucking everything in, and then the voice comes in, don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And you know that's
Yeah.
the right voice to listen
Yeah.
to, you know.
There was one, I'll say this, my wife's never heard this, my kids, God bless them. But that voice that said no, I very nearly threw myself off the cliffs in South Devon, one Sawmill Cove. I very nearly did. I was about to, and then this
Voice came in.
and I stepped back.
Yes.
Back home. I'm so glad. But that just to tell people out there that if they're ever in that state where they want to enter,
Yes.
don't do it. You know,
Things will get better.
you've got to
Things will get better.
yeah,
Yeah.
And talk to someone and have faith in yourself and in the divine.
That's it.
And your good friends and your good family to support you and push you through. So
It's so difficult with depression because it feels so incredibly real, and you feel that you're never going to get out of this blackness, out of this situation. And it's like you're drowning, you know, you're drowning and you can't see your way out. And it's so difficult. And you're just trying to do, like you went to India, you're trying to do things. And some of us have had to be so patient, you know. I think it's a very beautiful message you're saying, that, you know, just somehow hold on. And now, of course, you know, we have the beauty. Anyway, keep going, because we'll at the end we'll just talk a little bit about how self-realization can help you through all this.
So I brought this old Bedford TK horse box. It's a lorry. It's a small truck. It's about, I think it's nearly 5.5 ton, with a wooden mahogany box on the back.
Oh, beautiful.
And a little side door, and you could fit 2-3 ponies in it at a time. And they're great. You still see them on the road. They're lovely chuggers, you know. And I bought it, and because it had no brakes, well, I was driving it back from Glastonbury down Exeter Hill. I'd gone up Exeter Hill, up by the racecourse, and then down on the A38.
Oh my goodness.
How bad the brakes were. Anyway, luckily I managed to get it down to that car park in Nos Mayo.
Oh wow.
Because
that's you know, the lanes that go down, you just keep going down.
Yeah, that was touch and go. And I got it there, and at that time I'd come away from the friends in Plymouth, and I wasn't staying with my mate in Newton Ferrers, but I'd found accommodation in Nos Mayo then, coming back from India. And when you're a young person, you got your sleeping bag with you all the time. You on anyone's floor, that anyone will have you, and you're grateful for it. Bit of company, you know. And I parked up the truck there, and then the young lady that and her boyfriend I was sharing with, God bless them, lovely people, Nick and Sarah. Her mum was married to a farmer who's a National Trust tenant of the National Trust up on the headland. So you follow out to the sea from Nosmea, you take the coast path out, you wrap round the headland where you can see Wembury and the Mewstone.
Yes, yes.
I had a tenant farm up there. And Sarah introduced me to her stepfather. He said, you can park your van up, your truck up on one of my fields. And I did. And I parked it up there and I did the truck up. And when I'd done the truck up, I was all ready to live in it, you see. And I was going on the road big time, full time then, not staying on people's floors, not taking liberties, get the brush
Right.
out.
Just kind of growing into a more
hit
mature
the road.
way of life. Yeah.
Get out on the road proper as a traveler and a seeker I was. So, but what I needed was a cooking pot. I needed a whack, an iron
Cast iron.
cast iron cauldron pot that I could have on a tripod on a chain and hook. I could suspend it over an open fire on the side of the road. I could cook away to my heart's content, but I didn't have one. So I went into Plymouth. I got the bus into Plymouth, and I went down, and I remembered there's an antique shop down there because I'd done 4 years at Plymouth Poly, 1982 to 1986. I worked on a fishing boat out in the Barbican, and that's another story. My God, that ties in with the Sahajogi that I later met, who knew the skipper of the fishing boat. So there's more to this. I won't go on, but it's all part of the magic of the divine. And I'd walked past this antique shop pretty much on and off for 4 years while I was Plymouth Poly, while I was working one summer out the Barbican on the boat, but I never went in. And funny enough, it's near the house that Jack built, where
Right, where Maggie was. Yeah.
and I never went in there. And from the outside, I mean, God bless it, and God bless its proprietor, because she gave me my realization. And it's dear Margaret Parker. God bless her soul. She's still alive. She's still down there. She's still trading out of her antique shop on the Barbican, and that's where I got my self-realization. So I went into her shop. I'd never been in there before. Walked past it on and off for 4 years at Plymouth Poly, and then another 3 years while I was in and out of Plymouth, Newton Ferrers, Nos Mayo, Loddiswell. Never went in, and it really is the old curiosity shop. If you want an old bric-a-brac antique shop stuck in time, it's a lovely Georgian building, but it's on the ground floor. That's the place. But I never went in there. I always walked past it. I always looked, but I never went in. I plucked up courage. I went in, and I walked into the shop, and there was no one else in there. And I had antiques everywhere on the floor, up hanging off the walls, off hanging from the ceiling. And I was sort of walked down the central aisle of the shop, which was the only clear bit of shop floor. And at the end was this black pot on the floor. And I thought, that's it. And I bent down and I picked it up, had it in my hands. I thought, this is what I want. And then Margaret popped her head from round the corner of a little screen divider she had. I think she was rummaging around, pricing up some stock at the back of the shop. And she popped her head round and she said, can I help you? And I said, yeah. How much is the pot? But as I was lifting the pot up, I noticed on this antique writing desk a pile of photocopies about Sahajoga. And I picked it up, one of them, and it was the one, I think it's got Shri Mataji's hands. It's a miracle photograph. I don't know what's in her cupped hands, but it looks like petals to me. I can't remember, but it was a miracle photograph of Mother's hands in black and white on this leaflet. And it said, Sahajoga, the gentle path, get your kundalini raised in minutes. And I'm going, that's not possible. You can't do that. I've just been to India for that.
For 6 months.
For that. You can't do that. And I said to Margaret, I said, that's not possible. She said, yeah. You come on Thursday in the evening, I'll give you get your self-realization. I couldn't believe it. So I bought my pot. I was hopped and skipped out the shop, back on the bus, back to my truck where I was still doing it up. I mean, I was smoking. I'd given up dope. I'd given up smoking marijuana. I'd given up meat. I'd given up alcohol by then. and the only vice, I wasn't seeing any girls or anything. Gave all that up. Just pre-India actually. The only thing, my only attachment was tobacco, and I had a packet of beedies, and I just
What's that? What's that?
well, it's a leaf. It's a dried leaf rolled round.
Oh,
Grains of tobacco tied with a thread, and they come in little bundles of 25. And
sort of a little bit like the pan that they would eat
yeah,
in India. Yeah.
smoking.
Ah, okay.
And
So you don't smoke it, you just like chew on it.
and
So you
smoke.
get the nicotine buzz without it going in your
Yeah,
lungs.
no, you do smoke it.
Oh, you
Yeah,
do? Okay.
yeah, it's just a smoking.
Okay, we won't talk about it.
Basically,
Yeah.
I chuffed my way through a pack of 25, and I was as sick as a dog. I thought, I got to stop this. This is no good. This is not spiritual. This isn't right. So I was starting to wean myself off the tobacco at that just a couple of days before self-realization. Anyway, I went back in the evening, Wednesday evening. Wednesday or Thursday evening. I think the pubs were just opening up. The Ship pub opposite the shop. Barbican was just coming alive. I was down there with me white curtain pajamas, my coloured, my leather coloured, I think they were called Conkers, shoes from Totnes, multicolored, rainbow colored shoes. I was, a bit sort of new age traveling with my Jay Sharam shawl and all that, and everyone was going to the pub. So, and the shop was closed. Obviously, it had the gates, the iron gates closed. I'm thinking, well, it's closed. What's going on? And then I saw a little photograph of Shri Mataji. This is the first time I saw Shri Mataji's face. It was quite a strong photo. Very strong. I thought, right, this is it now. She's the guru, right? Okay, right. So I went round round the side, the alleyway, the Ope, and I knocked on the side door of this big Georgian building with the shop in the front, and there was this. And Margaret poked her head round and said, "Oh, hello, good evening, come in, go upstairs." So I got in, I'm going, blimey, what's this place? And I'm get sidling up the staircase. She's got all her bric-a-brac and her stock all hanging up at the back of the shop, and she go into the meditation room. And this was the magic of it all. You see, I think if someone had given me a flyer of a Shri Mataji and said come to a program, I would have gone. But I think my soul and the way I was seeking, Mother had created, Shri Mataji, the divine had created this magic, which that curiosity, that magic that I needed, that I was looking for.
Yeah,
edge.
to help you recognize that this
I
was the
wanted
right
that
thing.
edge, something different from mundane, humdrum.
Yeah.
I wanted that, and India had fueled all that. And so I walked into the meditation room up on the first or the second floor. I took my shoes off. I knew how to take my shoes off because I've been to India. And I walked in. It's just a little room. She sort of partitioned off nicely with Indian wooden carved screens and drapes and throws.
Oh,
Classic, sort of 1970s hippie style. I loved it with that patchouli.
oh, the fragrance.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's right up my street. And I walked in, there was no one in there, and she had an old TV, and on the top of the TV was the mother of photograph of Shri Mataji, and Shri Mataji was waving. And I went into the room, and I waved back at the photo. I thought I must be mad, but I don't know what it was. I just waved back at Shri Mataji's photo, and Margaret sat me down, and her niece came that evening, and they put me in front of a video of Shri Mataji giving a talk. I don't know what talk it was, or self-realization talk. Yeah, where she does the affirmations, and she's dressed in white, Shri Mataji on the stage. I don't know where the footage was from, and I followed it. And Margaret and her niece Janet were working on me from the back, and I just felt this relief and this peace and the weight of the world just
fell off your shoulders. That's what I experienced too.
It's like, wow, I'd never felt so peaceful in my entire life. Well, I probably felt a bit peaceful when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but this was like magic. And they said, yeah, put your hand above your head. I put my hand up here, and what was called the kundalini, it just pushed my hand away like this, and it was like a
fountain, like a
coming in.
fountain.
And of course, that in itself, that physical feeling, we got to feel the kundalini, the cool wind of the divine, or the Ru, or the Param Chaitanya, the kundalini. You've got to feel that coming out, and then you get it. Then you
Yes,
it's tangible, you know.
yeah.
And then
You
then
got
we
your
had a
realization?
wonderful. I got a realization in an antique shop in Plymouth, and of all the places,
Yeah, you had to come back home.
I had to come back home. It was on the doorstep all the way along the line.
Yeah.
And then later, I'll just try and progress on a little bit more. So I did about 2 months, 3 months with Margaret. She was so kind to me. She was so patient. I mean, and she's still there at Plymouth. I think she's still giving. I don't know if she's still meditating. I think she might still be, because I did see her a couple of years ago, actually.
Yes, she does. She
Yeah,
meets Dania
and
sometimes.
I can only thank her enough. She was the perfect instrument for me. She was patient. She helped me out. She advised me, and she brought me up to meet Shri Mataji at Heathrow Airport outside the Queen's building in a little brown Ford Fiesta. And God, it was a miracle how we got there. And then that's when the first time I met Shri Mataji.
And what does that like when you saw her in
that was
person?
interesting. So yeah, and this is before I went to Cabella in the horse box. So it's quite interesting. But yes, thanks for mentioning that. And I do apologise because my memory's not fantastic.
Oh, I think you're doing very well. The amount of colourful detail that has gone in is very good. Anyway.
Margaret was so kind. We jumped in a little brown Ford Fiesta. I'm pretty sure it was the brown Ford Fiesta. We'd gone up the old A38 Exeter, gone on to Bristol, M5, M4 into Heathrow, and Margaret did ever so well. We got out of the car, and then I started to see all these beautiful people were moving towards in a direction, the same direction, carrying flowers. Wow, what's this? You could pick them out, in amongst the comings and goings of Heathrow Airport. I don't know what terminal it was, but anyway. And we got down to the front of the Queen's building, and there's this gathering of what people who practice Saj Yoga called Saj Yogis, or what one could also call realized souls. And I'd never met them before. I'd only met Margaret. I think I might have met Russell and Leela from Exeter, and Steve Evans. Steve Evans from Watch It. He was great. He really looked after me. But I'd never met this big collective before. And Shri Mataji came. They brought her very nicely, very respectfully. They used a chair to bring her, wheel her. Although Shri Mataji could walk, but I think
they were just saving her because of the walks from the terminals a really long way. Yeah. And she would be at this point, she would be in her, so this is 90s, so she would be like 70, I think. Yeah, she would be pushing 70. So
92 it would have been. Yeah. And I could just pick out Shri Mataji being beautifully, gracefully, respectfully pushed in the wheelchair for elderly people, and this swarm of yogis converging and moving with her with these beautiful smiles, these beautiful countenance on these people's faces. I've never seen human beings like this, and it was like, wow.
Glowing.
I was so peaceful. There was no argy-bargy. No one was smoking. There was no one dropping litter, nothing. And beautiful people. And I was standing right at the back. I mean, I was like with my little red rose, my white pajama bottoms with the hole in, and my red fleece and my hood, and my little Jai Shri Ram shawl, and my conkers, my little multicolored leather shoes I bought from Totnes. I was just out on the edge of all this, looking in. And after a while, a lot of the yogis had greeted mother, and she'd greeted receptive flowers, and it was my turn. I found myself in amongst these beautiful souls with a little rose, and all of a sudden I was in front of Shri Mataji, and there were little kids offering flowers, and then mother, I don't know what it was. She was just, I wasn't dead in front of her. I was just off to one side, and she looked up at me, and I offered my little rose, and I said, Dhanyavad, in Hindi, thank you in Hindi, Dhanyavad to Shri Mataji, to thank her for
Accepting.
rescuing me. And
Yeah. Yes.
getting me. And she didn't say anything. I don't even think she smiled, actually, but she looked up at me for a moment, and I looked at her face, and my soul just knew that she was saying, so you finally turned up, have you?
Yes.
And I just melted in thank you, mother.
Yes.
And she knew she'd reeled me in.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
it.
I receded to the back of the crowd, and then the proceedings went.
You'd come home.
I'd
You'd
come back,
finally, yeah, you'd finally got there.
which was a big thing for me as well, because I was looking out for a male guru, Baba.
Yes,
Never
because that's
done
what we thought. We all thought it. We all
Yeah,
thought it had to be a male.
yeah,
It is interesting.
Because I think it's because in the Western Christian tradition,
yeah.
it's God is male.
Yeah.
There is not the worship
But
of the female Adi Shakti or power. So
Mm.
I had the same thing, you know, I could only relate in a way in the beginning to God, the divine, being male form. And this
Yeah.
is the tremendous weakness
Yeah.
of the Christian, you know, Caucasian Christian, as opposed to the Catholics who have this devotion to Mother Mary. And that was just because of Paul, that was
Yeah.
wiped out of the Bible.
Yeah, Peter and Paul, yeah.
Also, I mean, for me, having Shri Mataji as the mother was so beautiful and so, well, desirable actually as a guru, because in India you have gurus of all sorts.
Yes.
And it was just such a relief that A, she wasn't a man, so there would be no hanky-panky business that goes, and there have been exposures after.
Yes.
And also because she's a woman and she's a mother, and of course the vibrations are the proof of everything, but when you knew, you kind of still sort of, you know, ticking the boxes mentally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And it was just nice that she's there as a wife, as a mother, and as a guru. So she's a real householder. She hasn't renounced the home
Right.
and the hearth and the family.
Yes.
Because in our childhood, and the two things I'd like to share, if I may, where you were saying that your parents didn't want you to have a long name with middle names.
Mm.
And my parents, oblivious to everything that your parents were, in totally unconnected, different continents. My parents had the same thing with my brother, because in their family, they have long names, you know, proper first name, middle name, and the surname. But my father and mother, especially Papa, chose no, my brother would be Shailesh Singh, no middle name, and I will be Sushmita Singh, no middle name. So it's amazing how the divine just sort of
Connects you.
it, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing, and it came out today after being married so many years.
we never know everything about each other, do we?
I'll just pause it for a moment, if I may, please. Okay. Thanks for joining back, and please resume.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that was such a lovely description of meeting Shri Mataji. And now I know you have another story about Shri Ganesha.
Yeah.
So
I'd try and it warrants a book, but I'll do a potted version. I'll try and do it very quickly because
we'll just go relax into
Yes,
it
okay.
and let it come out.
So basically, after meeting Shri Mataji for the first time at Queen's Building, of course I just got my self-realization. I still got my seeking head on. I think we still do seek. We're still seeking to be one with the spirit in our meditation now in the yoga. But I had my seeking head on, still seeking head on. And I went back to Plymouth with Margaret. I'd got my cooking pot and I got my Bedford TK all fitted out properly and all legal and got it on the road. And then I was off. I was living on the road then. I'd done a couple of little trips around Devon and Cornwall in it, but I was going to take it to Brittany. And I jumped on the Brittany ferries from Mill Bay Docks, Plymouth, 6 hour sailing out to Roscoff.
Why Brittany though?
I wanted to get out on the road. I wanted to give realization to travelers.
I know when you get your realization, you're very full of this, because especially from your experience and similar to mine, you're so grateful and you feel like, wow, this is so fantastic. Look, you just need to get realization, and then you can start to cure yourself, and all these problems start to become balanced, and you want to share it. You go like, I want to give this to other people, and so they can experience this.
Yeah, you do. And of course, because you're coming from that sort of wayward seeking on the fringes of society, non-conformist. For me to attend a weekly meeting with 20, 30 other realized souls every week, it wouldn't have cut it with me. I'm still on that crazy railroader. But you're right.
You'd been seeking for quite like nearly 6 years, if not more. So I can understand that you're in that kind of open to, because you've opened your being to all kinds of experiences, and you've still got that.
You're right. I wanted to give realization to travelers, really, and people on the fringe.
How lovely.
Well, I was instrumental in a few, but it certainly wasn't
what you thought.
Wasn't a grand plan, not at all. Anyway, so I was on the road, living in my truck. We got my little wood burning stove inside and all that, and I was selling my Indian handicrafts out the back of the truck. I dropped the rear ramp, put it in the flat, sell it out as a stall, and selling to the French in Brittany as I drove round. And of course, don't forget, I did have some savings. I hadn't renounced it all back then in Jaipur, in Rajasthan. Well, what I did in my travels, I decided to buy a small holding in Brittany, because at the time, Brittany's property was cheap, dirt cheap, and there was a lot of buying up. And I chanced upon, I don't know, chance, but I suppose it was all meant to be a granite construction, a bit like a Devon longhouse, but it was Bretonese, and it had about 2-3 acres with it. And I bought it for 15 grand. I thought bargain, but because I couldn't live in it because it needed doing up. It hadn't been touched since the farmer had vacated, whatever, before. I was still living in the truck on the land. And on the odd occasion, I was in the call box in the nearest village to Margaret, just having a chat. I was really in that bliss bunny stage where you're really feeling the cool vibrations, and you're getting into thoughtless awareness, and the world's your oyster, and you
get this like 6-month honeymoon period, don't you?
Honeymoon period.
Yeah.
You know,
before you have to face all the deep stuff inside. Yeah.
You're invincible. You can do anything. Mode. So anyway, I mean, my French is appalling, but I managed to buy for 15 grand this farmhouse. So I parked up the horse box. I stayed there about 4 months, and something inside me was going, no, there's more than this. There's more than this, Paul. There's more than this, Shankar. What is more than this? And I knew Shri Mataji I knew about Cabella. Margaret had mentioned it, so I kind of knew it, but I didn't know where it was or anything.
So you knew that Shri Mataji, that there was a world center in Cabella in northern Italy, and that Mother had a place that she lived in the castle there.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a world center. I just knew she had an old castle and she stayed there, and I knew North Italy and Liguria. That's all I knew. And I thought sitting there in the horse box, I was thinking, oh, there's got to be more to this. Got to be more to this. Anyway, one evening, one night, and I'm pretty sure it was a full moon. It was a clear sky, night sky, and I was pretty much out there in a fairly remote part of Brittany. I mean, middle of Brittany, but you know, it wasn't certainly wasn't built, very rural. And I parked up my horse box in next to the house, one of the fields, open fields, big view. And I was meditating one evening. I had a cow's horn that I found in one of the barns, and I'd had a nice, you know, those friendship bands, and that was holding it. I drawing pinned it to the side of the horse box inside by the wood burning stove. And then I mounted Shri Mataji's photo because Margaret had given me a little photograph of Shri Mataji, and I collected flowers from the hedgerows and I put them
So sweet.
and had me Indian hand
Yeah.
waving me in joss sticks around. And
we must remember that you're still very young and very
yeah,
innocent in all of this.
yeah,
Very
28,
sweet.
29, really, 29, 28, 29.
Yeah.
And it's a very quiet night, middle of nowhere, in the truck, wood burning stove on, mother's photo, little candle on the table, me sitting opposite on the bench, and I'm just settling down, my little paraffin lamp, hurricane lamps on, because I didn't have any electricity. I'm just settling down for meditation. And of course, I didn't even know what meditation was. I just sat there, cross-legged, my hands out, my eyes closed, and just felt this peace and bliss. But I didn't.
But that's the essence of it. That's what it is.
Yeah. So I was sitting there, my eyes closed, and things started to get a bit intense in my being, and I've always questioned my being anyway, but that's another story. But things were getting pretty intense, and um, and then I heard this quite loud and distinctive thud, like big heavy footsteps around the horse box in the night in the night while I was there. And I was sitting there with my eyes closed, and I was thinking, what's that? What's that? And when I was meditating, my eyes closed, and I saw Shri Mataji in with my eyes closed, sitting there. I saw Shri Mataji come to the entrance door, the little side door of the horse box, and want to come into the horse box. And I'm sitting there in my meditation, I'm thinking, well, how's she going to get in? She's not going to be able to reach the step because she's not, I mean, mother wasn't very, I mean,
physically, she wasn't very tall.
Get on the step to pull herself up in. So in my meditation, although I was sitting there with my eyes closed, I zoomed out. I hadn't left my body or anything. I suppose, I don't know what it was. I hadn't left my body, but I zoomed out.
Your attention.
On all fours, and she put her foot on my back and stepped up into the truck. And then I whizzed back to where I was sitting. But I was still...
So you were still sitting there, but you felt with your attention that this happened, that you helped her to come in. Okay.
All the time I was sitting, and this is what I'll say from the start, so people can try and get their heads around this.
No, because you know, we know how the spirit can. Anyway, keep going. We don't have to rationalize it. This is what happened. Keep going.
Magic. And this is the thing I wanted to. I'm so glad I've been invited to give this little interview, because I've met some realized souls and yogis that have had similar experiences, but I haven't met that many. And I just wanted to convey that you can have, you do get these miracles. You know, she actually talks about miracles. I'll be there sitting on the end of your bed, and see me in
that her being transcends the physical time and aspect, and she can appear. Yes,
you do get it. And of course, you know, for me, that's the magic. That's the mysticism of it all.
So she came in.
Yeah, so sorry. So I zoomed back to my seated position, which I was always in, and my body, I don't think it shook. It didn't shake it. There was a big, like, couple of tremors going through my body, like really powerful stuff, like enough.
The energy just really surging.
Real. And I was like, enough for me to go, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then I opened my eyes and I looked to one side where the entrance was, and floating like about this big, like, you know, like about 1.5 meters across by 1 meter, floating with a bluey white smoky appearance, and a body with an elephant's head on it. And because I knew Sri Ganesha from going to India and all that, and it was this. I mean, I was really scared. It was hovering and moving backwards and forwards, and he was going. Suspended in midair, this smoke-like image.
Yes, apparition.
Yeah.
Apparition.
And I looked and I shut my eyes immediately like this. I was
Too much.
on. And then when I shut my eyes, I saw that Shri Mataji had gone out and was checking out the farm. I'm pretty sure she was wearing a green and red sari with a gold border, and she was checking out the farm. She was checking out the barns. I saw her in my meditation. And then
When you say checking out, I think maybe
looking,
she was just looking at everything, seeing what you had there.
it was
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then after a while, these two great forces came together in the field, which was a ploughed field. It was a moonlit night. It was got to be close.
So
to
you're looking out through the side door or
just
through.
in my meditation.
Oh, right. You're seeing through. Yes.
Two forces
Wow.
and I could only imagine it was Sri Ganesh and Shri Mataji coming together, came together like this, and then
Whoosh, off they went.
went up into the night sky. And I cut out the horse box and I was bricking it.
You were what?
I was very
He's
scared.
scared.
I was,
Okay. Well, it was a huge experience.
I was trembling. I was walking around the farm and I was saying up to the divine,
To the divine, yeah.
"How can you do this to me? I can't cope with this. This is too much." I was filled with excitement and this energy was going to me. And then I got back, I'd slept, and then a couple of days later, it came into my head, I've got to go to Cabella. I don't know where it is in northern Italy, but I've got to go. And the next time I was in the local village buying bread and honey, because I was living pretty slim there, I was on bread and honey pretty much, a bit of pasta and honey, because I wasn't able to sell all my stock. And I was on the public phone box in the local village to Margaret. I said, "Margaret, I've had this experience. I've got to go see Shri Mataji in Cabella. Where is it?" She said, "Oh, well, it's just south of Milan in Liguria mountain range between Milan and Genoa and northern Italy, and all the best." And next day I packed up the truck. I was on the road. It took me 2 weeks to get to Cabella, just over 2 weeks. I was doing 40 mile an hour in a 30-year-old Bedford TK horse box that didn't actually need taxing. It was so old you didn't have to tax it.
Also,
I
it
was on-
wasn't, there was no GPS or anything.
Yeah,
So
no,
how
I
did you
didn't have
find
a
the
sat-
That's right. That's
I
right.
didn't even have a mobile phone, nothing. I
There wasn't any mobile phone.
I had I didn't even have an atlas. It was for the UK, so it was useless. On the way, I was selling my handicrafts out the back of my truck to get
Oh, so sweet.
money for diesel. So I didn't do the main motorways, or I can't remember the auto routes in France. I was doing the A
It's
road.
too fast. Yes.
Truck was only doing 45 mile an hour downhill with wind behind you. You were doing well, and I was giving lifts to hitchhikers and all sorts, and I was talking to people on the side of the road. I was selling handicrafts, getting some money, refueling, getting back on the road, because it took me about 2.5 weeks to get there. I mean, normally you could get there in 24 hours.
Yeah. All right. So you get there. You arrive.
I got there, and there was multiple miracles on the way to keep me on the road. Loads of stuff, which is kind of another story. And I got there. Oh, no, because I didn't know the way. And as I was getting closer to Italy, I needed to know where Cabella was. And I didn't have enough money for a map. So as I remember, I was in Grenoble at the time on the French Alps. And I walked into a bookshop. I pulled out a map, opened it up, and I had to feel with the vibrations where Cabella was. I put my hand over the map, and there was this pinprick of cool coming up from the map. And I looked, and it said Cabella Ligure.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't afford the map, so I remembered it, the route, packed up, put the map back. I didn't want to steal it. I knew God was watching, and got back in the truck. I think I sold a big Rajasthani wall hanging, which gave me 40 quid's worth of diesel. And I went round Nice. I went via Nice because I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
truck over the Alps, and I didn't go through the
Yeah.
or anything. So I went through Nice and Monte Carlo with this 30-year-old.
That's right down south,
DJ.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to go right
New
down
age
south to get
travellers.
back up to the north. Oh my goodness.
I was going to wrap round Nice, round the Med to Genoa, and
Yeah.
then up to Cabella.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was selling Balinese bikinis on Nice Beach to get some
Oh my goodness.
all this stuff, you know. And through Monte Carlo, all the super yachts and all the Ferraris, and I got this old Bedford TK
Yes.
away. And I gave a bit of dinner to this criminal who was on the run for murder, and it was like,
Oh my goodness. But it's amazing how the divine protects you, because you're on a pilgrimage. You're on a pilgrimage to get to Cabella. Okay, keep going.
I was on a mission. And finally, I got to Cabella Ligure. I got pulled over by the police. They thought I was a drug smuggler. They had machine guns on me and everything.
Oh, goodness.
Open up all my stuff. But luckily, the Cabaneri, is it? I think.
Yeah.
They saw I was a waste of space. I got into Cabella and I'm looking around for this big castle.
Yeah.
And it was before all the external repairs were done, before
before it was painted white.
The white render. And then I saw it. So I parked up in the riverbed, by the riverbed, and I walked up, and it took me just over 2 weeks to get there, mind. I knocked on the door of the castle, not the entrance that Shri Mataji uses with the bridge and the fountain, but the front entrance looks the valley, big
up
door,
the steps.
And I'm down on here. And it was all a bit shabby, the outside, because Mother hadn't done it up then. Knocking on the door, and then this Indian yogi comes out in a sari, yogini comes out in a sari, and I'm going, well, I must be in the right place. I said, I've come to see Shri Mataji. And she said, oh, very good, but she's not here. I said, well, what do you mean she's not here? No, she's in London. I said, but I've done 2 weeks to get here to see her. No, she's in London. She's coming back shortly, and then shut the door. And then I went back to my truck, and then later on, I met John Watkinson and Padmini Dee, and I helped John out a little bit with the work he was doing for Shri Mataji.
So you stayed and waited for her to come back.
For Mother to come.
Yeah.
When she came, I did meet her then. That would be the second time, other than the Heathrow Airport. And that's that bit of it. And when
she also told you something about Devon, wasn't it? They were
this is the bit. This is where we'll end it, because so
where you are from,
John Watkinson will have a different version of this story, but this is what I remember. But John will tell me off after, because and I've got to take it from John because he's older than me. But basically, after about some weeks of helping John, Shri Mataji came back from the UK.
And how beautiful that you got to spend that time in Cabella, because you would be clearing out and getting to meditate collectively, and sort of, in a way, your being gets cleared and open, so that when you do see Mother again, you can appreciate her presence more.
That's John, courtesy of John's mustard oil head massages down in the dungeons of the castle, where he had his ornate plaster castle.
His workshop.
And he whacked my head down on it and got poured, he had about 2.5 litres of mustard oil, poured it all over my head. It was going my eyes and everything. It was just bashing away at my head, clearing out my Sahasrara chakra and all this. And I was spinning out. I mean, this was big vibrations.
Yeah.
I remember doing a bit of gloss painting in Sir CP's area up in the top of the castle. I was doing a bit of gloss painting, and John was with me doing so. I said, John, I said, my head's spinning. My right eye, my left eye keeps
Kept
flickering. I don't know
twitching.
what it is.
Yeah.
I'm spinning out. I've got to lie down. So I lay down on the carpet for a while to stabilize myself. I said, shut up, Shankar. You can pull yourself together. It's just negativity.
But it's also, I mean, we experienced that a lot in the early years because there was such a lot of clearing going on, and it can become so intense, you know, that we used to have pujas in England, and literally mother would have everybody lay down and sleep afterwards. You know, we used to call it post puja headache or post puja nap, because then when you fell asleep, everything would just clear out because you'd relax and everything could clear out, because during the puja you were absorbing so much vibration, more vibrations than, you know, and it's pushing all this other stuff out. She, you know, because she said like we're like string bags, and that when you come into Sahaja Yoga in the beginning, you know, you're clearing all this negativity out, and it creates these holes that then get filled up with the good vibration. So it's kind of like, you know, nowadays it's changed a lot. Vibrations are everywhere, but this will be why you were feeling that.
Okay, yes.
That's amazing.
And John was ever so patient. I met Chris Marlowe, Uncle Chris, a very, very skilled artisan.
Who'd also come in from Glastonbury, from Somerset.
Yeah. From he used to
yeah, he lived there.
Brent Knoll, near Brent Knoll, was on the M5. He said he'd been up the top there. He was meditating, I think, at some point.
So anyway, you're in the castle with all of them.
Legends. And they came and had coffee in my horse box, actually. And Steve Jones. Steve Jones came and had coffee, and some German yogis. That was nice. And of course, I was telling my Shri Ganesha story. Oh, Shri Ganesha appeared in my truck. You know. Probably thinking, who's this nutter? You know. Anyway, Shri Mataji came back, and her car she had pulled up at the back, a rear elevation of the castle, through her entrance, across the bridge. Dividing the back of the hillside from the rear elevation, and we're all lined up. And I borrowed a pair of jeans from John because my trousers were shot to pieces. Someone had given me a rose to offer. John and Padmini D were down up the end by the door that leads into the castle.
So everybody preparing to welcome mother home.
All these beautiful souls, these beautiful yogis, yoginis, immaculately turned out. Italians, French, Germans, a few stragglers.
So all the people who were working to restore the castle, who were living there and restoring it.
Like from the likes of Finbar, Pat's brother, Pat Morin's brother, Finbar.
Yes.
Giorgio, and
so we should just give a little bit of context, so that this was only a few, I don't know the time span, but mother had bought this completely run down, broken castle, and then the yogis came to restore it and learned crafts, or brought their crafts, and then after many years this was fully restored and is now functioning as the World International Sahaja Yoga Center. So this was a very important, beautiful collective project that she initiated, that you were all working on, just to sort of explain why there were so many yogis from different countries.
It was for that particular moment in time, it was end of 92, 93, because then I went on the India tour. Oh yeah, it was 92.
Yeah.
Because
so you're in the queue.
My first puja, my God. I mean,
so you're in the queue.
So I'm on the bridge, and mother's coming along, and I'm thinking, whoa, this is big time. And she's accepting the flowers. And John will have a different version of this. I know he will.
That's fine.
and she came to me, and she took my flower, and I'd just been painting. And she said, hello, how are you? And I went, I've been painting, Mother. I was a bit heady from the solvent fumes of the gloss. And John, I could just see John down the other end of the bridge, out the corner of my eye. He's just cracked up laughing. He was like doubled up laughing at this ridiculous reply that I'd given to, you know, the goddess, the feminine aspect of God Almighty. It was like, you idiot. That's all I could say. And she just dismissed me with a wave of her hand. She went, ha! And then just went on down the line. And John, I think John seems to think that she must have given me a bit of a clip or something. But anyway,
I think she just shot everything out of you.
could have done
You know, we know that Mother's hand gestures anywhere in a program, well, when we've seen her sitting in a program and as she's talking, she's making these hand gestures. And some of the yogis who've come in damaged on the superconscious have actually seen like thunderbolts coming out or entities coming out of the person. So I'm sure, you know, that was just like clearing you in one big swoop.
It was quite
Dramatic.
It was at that moment to me it just felt like a dismissal, you know, you know, and of course I knew the divine had a great sense of humor. The divine, I've always felt the divine has got a great sense of humor, and that it's the magic and the sense of humor and the good-heartedness of human beings and the divine's play that will keep creation going, you know.
That's very sweet.
Cheery. Anyway, so we all filed into Mother's reception room, big fireplace, beautiful ornaments, beautifully decorated internally. Externally, the castle still shabby looking, if I may use that expression. And I was probably the last one to come in, and I did namaskar. I remember doing namaskar at her feet, this lovely soft white fleece, and I was burying my face in it and put my hands out at her feet. And I got up from namaskar and she goes, she said, where are you from? She said. And I went, well, I live in a truck, Mother, on the side of the road. It's your truck, Mother. I've given it to you. Yes, I know that. But where are you from? She said. Oh, I've just driven through France, really. And yes, I know that. But where are you from? And then I think she turned to Sandeep, attending her, and she said, look at his hair. Look at his hair. And it was blonde then, and I had a bit more of it, not so much longer. And she said, look at his hair. You know, it's almost as if, where's he from? Scandinavia or somewhere, Finland or somewhere. And then she turned back to me and said, but where are you from? And I went, I didn't know what to say. I couldn't go through my whole story of my life. So I said, Plymouth in Devon, Mother. Because I'm not a Devonian. I'm from Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
I spent so much time in Plymouth in Devon. And she went, they set big smile on her face. She said, oh, the yogis all around. She said, they say Devon is heaven, but I've never been there, with a big chuckle. And I went, yes, Mother, because I knew she had been there. She'd done an interview with South West at Plymouth. She'd been to Exeter, to the cathedral. I knew she had been there. I wasn't there at the time. And I just went, yes, Mother. I wasn't going to say you don't know. And I just knew. And there's a big smile. They say Devon is heaven, but I've never been there, she said. And it was like, wow. So every time I go back to Devon, I tell the family in the car.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And that's it. That's that bit of it all for now. And I just want to thank, you know, the divine. What I've realised is, we thank Shri Mataji, our guru, Adi Shakti, the goddess. But more recent years, it's clocked. Now, come on, Shankar. You've got to thank God the Father as well. Shri Mahadev, Shri Sadashiva. So every time I do Namaskar now, I thank my father and, of course, my mother, Shri Mataji, for everything. And I love it. I love the Shri Shiva pujas that we perform up at the farm.
Up soon.
I float when they're on. And I love the whole magic. It's fantastic. And I just wish that every human being could experience that magic and know that there is a divine. And God willing, we'll be able to carry on with these interviews that you so kindly helped my good wife, my wife has transformed my life.
No doubt.
So,
much to
so
thank people for everything they've done for me, in addition to the divine. Mother took me from a potentially a half-mad seeker with a geography degree, and I got a third. I didn't even get a good degree, and Plymouth Poly, and she's turned me into a building surveyor. And I did a bit of labouring for her in Ealing with Fergie and a bit of woodwork on a few places. I worked on Cabella with Fergie a little bit outside.
Okay.
And she'd take me from nothing to a professional. I wear a shirt now. It's crazy. I can never imagine
we've all had very big journeys, haven't we? It's been a big life journey. It's so special. It's so, and well, I'm looking forward to a second part. It was so lovely to be part of this journey with you, and so interesting to see how many parallels in your seeking journey to also to my seeking journey, and very generous of you to share about what it's like to go through a manic depression and how, and maybe next time we can talk a little bit more about how the meditation helped with that in a practical, physical way. Because that's the whole, is, we want to share that whatever problem or difficulty you come from, this amazingly beautiful energy that comes through the Kundalini awakening will comfort and support and heal all those things, and all those things. So I'm so sorry we have to cut it short at this point, but that was really special sharing. And we look forward to the second session with other stories that you obviously have. And I have to say that, Shankar, when you share, it's like you have so much detail, colorful visual detail. I feel like I'm going through a film with you, and I would say that you've got all the material to write memoirs, because when you read a book, it's all those visual details that you've shared that really help us experience what it was like to be there. So well done, and
she does it all, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Used to do her. I mean, thank God for God is what I say.
Thank God for God.
Yes, and we just really want to share that more people will, be brave. And come and try and be brave and trust that whatever issues or problems you have will be resolved. And we'll have some more sessions. I will share one too like that. So really lovely. Okay.
And trust in the divine. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Felicity,
All right.
taking this interview with my husband Shankarji, because it's quite sort of it's really nice to hear it rather than interview, and you've done it so deftly. And it's interesting because just last Saturday there was this Yuva saying, remember Pranjal was saying, his mum has been chasing him to interview him for so it's really nice that this has happened just the following
just spontaneously. Yes.
Interesting how Shri Mataji works things out, isn't it? And thank you so much for your time. And
no, no thank yous. It's good.
So let's close this session today.
Yes.
Thank you. Jai Shri
Till
Mataji.
next time. Jai Shri Mataji.
Thank you so much for everything.